on slate. Usually we're probably just going to do live before on these ones. I can't promise that we'll do a video in advance because a lot of times we're also waiting on later in the season, you'll see we're waiting on like half the guys' injury reports. So, and that's going to dictate all the value. So, so we're going to try this first look this time and let us know how you guys like it. If you want to just do the live one before, because we will be live. I'll be live at 7:15 Eastern. But we thought it'd be fun to try a first look video since we had a little bit of time this morning to go through it. Sheets, any overall thoughts on the game or anything like that before we jump into the
Yeah, I think what we're going to do, I think this is a good idea, is we're going to treat like this early look as kind of like a not a single entry build, but sort of just who good plays are. We'll build like kind of a lineup, and what we'll do is that thing that we kind of debate. We'll create like maybe two different lineups with two different game scripts or something like that, right, to see what it would look like if you think that, say, XYZ happens or things like that. When it comes down to building at the end, like the MME stuff, I'm just more kind of about, using SaberSim and using the optimizers and like screwing around with all that stuff. But for this early look, I think it's a good idea to just think like who the good plays are, who the players are, you know what I mean? Like who we're looking at here, as opposed to what percent of X we would want in like 50 max or something like that.
Right.
So I think it's probably the best way to start. So we have Buffalo at a resurgent Jets team from last season. It's a very, very small spread. Buffalo's only laying 2. The weather could be somewhat of an issue here in New York. Thunderstorms are scheduled for at least the early part of the evening. I don't know if it's going to extend later into it, but that's something to think about. And relatively reasonable total. And I think what we should probably do is come up with a couple of ways the game can go and build kind of different constructions. My opinion on the game, I mean, I really just kind of don't have one. It should be a close game. Jets defense is pretty good, so I don't really have much of an opinion whether it goes over or under. I expect kind of an even game right around that 47, whatever. What is it, 47? Is that what the total is? I'm just guessing.
It's 45 and a half.
45 and a half. Yeah, maybe just something like that. So I guess, do you have an opinion on the game?
Well, obviously it's pretty terrible weather. So I think that it does feel like a game that could hit the under. I also want to point out just how good the Packers looked yesterday without Aaron Rodgers. This might end up being the biggest, yes, he's probably still an upgrade over Mike White and all these other guys, but I don't know that I don't know that he's still the same guy. So I guess my take would be probably the Bills -2, and probably slightly leaning towards the under, and certainly open to playing some Bills defense. I guess that would be my first thoughts.
Well, let's look at it this way. So I think regardless of what game script you create, it's kind of tough to keep Josh Allen out of it, right?
Right.
I mean, whether he has to come back, whether he has to maintain the lead, whether it's anything, I'd have to think that he is, the guy you would start with, right? I mean, would you, if you were to build a kind of like one lineup with like captain, for example, like where would you go if it were, well, obviously Josh Allen, but where else would you go if you weren't using Josh Allen?
I'm not going to try to use. I'm going to make sure not. I mean, it's going to be I try to fade the highest owned players when they're going to be 25+% owned at captain. It just feels like it makes it so much harder to get everything else right. Not fade in all my lines, but in my single entry in my big buy-ins, I probably will skip the Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers as will probably not be my captains. I don't think I'll play a lineup that doesn't have Josh Allen in it, because even for the running game side of things, even if the weather's ugly, that probably ups his rushing numbers, if anything. Do you want to share your screen, by the way, or do you want me to do for?
Yeah, sure, I got it.
Yeah, we'll do a little build here. But my natural thing would be, the first move would be I put Josh Allen in the flex, and I would try to find a way to make sure I have at least one of Diggs or Davis to start off with. That's where I would be.
Screen, entire screen is running. So which one do you want to start off with?
I personally, I don't want to use him as a captain, but
who do you want to put it as a captain?
Well, that's the part I want to figure out. Is that this is the way that I'm doing it today, because when you have a guy who's going to be we don't usually have guys who are going to be literally like, and he might even end up at like 40% ownership in some of the smaller field stuff as a captain. So I'm looking for other ways, but my natural instincts would be to put him as a flex and then play one of Diggs or Davis as the captain.
All right, so let's talk about the Buffalo receivers, I guess, then. That's a good way to start.
Mm-hmm.
So you think Diggs or Davis would be the big receiver? So I want to start, just before I forget, with what I think is going to be the big chalk of the day, and that's going to be Deontay Hardy.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, well, we'll see about that. So he's 200, and you'll see throughout the course of the day he's going to get steam. And I think that he's a very, very reasonable option. I think I like him better than the other one from last year, the Shakir guy, as the third, I guess, receiver. So I'm just curious what something like that would see. Whenever you're thinking of putting a real super cheapo in the captain, remember, you're not expected to score the most, right? But they're just cheap.
Right.
You do that if that then allows you to get to literally like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, and that would be the only, like, if you could do that and only that will let you get to like huge priority plays like Wilson, Rodgers, Diggs, Allen, and then, let's just say there was another real high priority play, then I would consider putting Hardy in the captain just for that reason. But it doesn't seem like there's another huge guy that I 100% would want to get. So maybe that's not the idea. So if you were going to use a receiver of Allen's in the captain, which makes sense, I guess it would be either Dave. I mean, well, who else, right? Davis or Diggs, and Diggs is much more expensive.
Yeah.
So you want to start with this one? You want to start with Davis in the captain?
Yeah, that was my first instinct today. He's also, I'm a little biased because he's done really well for me on Showdown sites. I just want to point out something about the Hardy thing. I don't even know that like he's gonna play. Like I don't know where this the difference between him and Sherfield is I have no idea. We're just calling him the third receiver. We have absolutely no idea. So I don't think he's gonna end up being over. I think he maybe gets like 10% ownership or something.
Okay.
But I mean, he's projected to catch 2 passes or 1 pass.
I guess
Trent Sherfield is going to be low owned, and you could just make the same case for him or Shakir. So I just don't know that I necessarily like any of that stuff. I think I would rather stick with the guys who actually who I trust are going to play, at least at the moment. You know what I mean? So I like the idea of the Davis, and I like the Josh Allen, and then I personally would be doing my best to not. One thing about playing those minimum cost guys, that just means even if only 5% of people play them, your builds are going to look just like theirs for the most part. You know what I mean? It's really hard without leaving some extra money on the table to play them. So I would rather play a guy like CJ Uzoma or something like that, who I've actually seen catch a touchdown, whereas I don't think Deontay Hardy's, he might have caught a pass once. I don't know. I'd rather be spending down on the Latavius Murrays, Randall Cobbs, the guys who are like actual players, Mecole Hardman. I think those are the guys I'd rather take shots on. I don't think you need the value. So personally, I will probably be avoiding it.
Well, let's think of something else. So if we're going to use Allen and we're going to use Davis in the captain, we're probably going to want something running back for the Jets, right?
I would think that it's good to try to play both, and then you might need the value.
Well, yeah. So let's get all the touchdowns. I mean, let's put Davis and Diggs and Josh Allen.
Yeah, I was saying the opposite, but yeah.
Oh, you want to try to get Diggs in the captain?
No, I was talking about both. There's no way you can play that lineup with both running backs from.
I wasn't even mentioning running backs. Oh, I said running it back. I didn't say running backs.
I
said if you're going to play Allen with Davis, you're going to run it back with someone from the Jets.
Yeah, I thought you said running backs, but yeah.
So who would your? I mean, I imagine the most logical would be Wilson, right? But do you think Rodgers is going to be drawn towards his, towards Lazard just because of the familiarity, or what do you think?
I don't know. The hard part for me is that because the weather's bad, I would just try to lean it more on the running backs personally. Okay. I like both Cook and Breece Hall. It's interesting that they're sort of calling Dalvin Cook as if he's the starting running back. I think Breece Hall is the much more electric player, and the guy I'd be more likely to use, but I like the idea of using both of them actually in this matchup. So where would that put us?
I'm looking here. So you put Allen with Davis, and then you play both Jets running backs.
And you're still got pretty good money left to spend.
You got So you could if you wanted to play it, play another Buffalo receiver. You could play Diggs and then a cheapo if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But is that really all you want from the Jets? Just 2 running backs?
Like I said, I'm open to the idea of using Uzoma as a get weird play. Tyler Conklin, I would gear less on Randall Cobb's more of a possession receiver. Tyler Conklin is the tight end who's more of a possession guy. I'd rather be using these guys than maybe the expensive home run threats of Garrett Wilson. Because I just don't know how much they're going to be able to get the ball down, like throw the ball down. I do like the Wilson, and I think he's going to have a big year. But I just think tonight also he's going to be really popular. I'm more leaning towards like a Randall Cobb or a Tyler Conklin or Uzoma with both running backs is a build that I like personally. But I don't think we have to do it. I just think that was something I liked.
Yeah, I mean, look, they really brought the whole kitchen sink over for him to throw to, right? They have Lazard, they have Cobb, then they have Wilson and Hardman. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. And then you said Conklin and the Uzoma. There's a lot of guys out there. You better get this one right. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of dudes. I mean, I'm just wondering if you're just not supposed to do, like you said, you start with Diggs, Allen, and Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like this is, I presume this, like if you played like all these guys and you played Aaron Rodgers and then you played Lazard and then one of the cheapos, I think that's actually going to be pretty popular. Doing something like that.
Except for the Davis, I don't think is going to be a special. Like he'll probably be like 5% as captain.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
and then you could do this, and then you could play like Uzoma.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's actually not bad. So you could use these cheapos to kind of make the rest of this stuff kind of work. What do you think of
needing more? So my build is going to be heavy on running backs. I also am going to use James on the other side. We have both Cooks, Dalvin Cook and James Cook. James Cook, we're expecting to be, sort of the main back for Buffalo, which I think is reasonable. But I think Latavius Murray, and Damian Harris will get some looks as well. So I would, in games like this that have bad weather, I want to play Josh Allen. I want to probably play one of the receivers with him, and then I want to go for like running backs, defenses, and tight ends. That's just the way that I'm leaning tonight personally.
Well, which is your favorite running back for Buffalo? So Cook?
The Cook would be my favorite, but I also think that Lat Murray could be the cheap one you use.
What does the Buffalo defense look like? That's only 3,800. So you think of like a Buffalo blowout? You think that could be a reasonable
I don't think it's a blowout? I just think that they can get all. Remember that when the Lions won by 1 point, that only one Chief was on in any of the winning lineups, and that was Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And that wasn't a blood, but it was where the fantasy points go. And I think that it'll be more spread out on the Jets side because they have the 2 running backs. And because I think that I don't think it's going to be as easy for them to throw the ball. We'll see. I mean, the Buffalo secondary has been very stingy in the past, and Aaron Rodgers, I am not going to just sit here and go, okay, he's going to be awesome again. He's on a new team. It's not like he was on a bad team before, and he had talent there too. So, I mean, we just saw them put up, they scored the most points yesterday of anybody except for Dallas. Their offense scored the most points. I don't know. I'm leaning towards trying to do it my way, like the other way tonight. I'm definitely going to have some Rodgers lineups, but mostly I think it's going to be that those weird plays, the defenses, the running backs, the tight ends, or possession receivers versus, and probably I'll probably end up with less Diggs and less Wilson and less Rodgers than the field has.
I'll say this, by the way, if the weather's no good, I would not want to play the kickers.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the total might stay low, but it's tough to kick. It's been tough to kick in that stadium since it was built. Okay.
Yeah.
And you add some bad weather in there. I think it's more likely on these 4th and 4s, like Josh Allen will just will run, you know what I mean, or something like that. as opposed to trusting the kicking game. So I think that's one thing you could do is you play. There's a lot of people that play like defenses in I won't say in builds, but with ideas of playing the kickers. But I think you play the defense without the kickers on days like this.
Yeah, I agree. And right off the bat, maybe I'm a little more biased towards the defense because right off the bat last night, within 30 seconds of the game starting or however long it took, I already had no chance because once that defense scores a touchdown, you're dead. When they score the second touchdown, you have really no chance if you don't play the defense.
That's the thing. If they score one touchdown, you're not dead. But then when they got the second one combined with the sacks and everything else,
They scored like 30. They were the highest scoring player on the slate of the day.
I think they're more than that. I think they might have had 40. No, I don't know what
it was the highest scoring on defense I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, and yeah. Anyway, it's just. But you're looking for randomness. But I mean, Rodgers made a lot of mistakes last year. Bad weather game. But Bills defense that I'm still waiting to. I don't know whether I trust that they're good or not, but I know that the corners are good. So I'm curious to see how it goes. And Kenny G saying here in chat that he hears that Latavius Murray will be inactive. That if Latavius Murray is inactive, that makes both Damian Harris and James Cook even better plays. I do think Murray will probably get 3 or 4 carries at least. So just probably near the goal line or for first downs is where they would use him. So I like the idea of the other guys. But that's going to be, I mean, that's sort of an outline. I guess that's the best we can do for a first thing, is sort of an outline of a possible build. And my builds are all going to look like that. The tight ends, running backs, Josh Allen, less of Rodgers, Wilson, and Diggs, which just because the ownership, the price, and the type of game that I'm going to try and plan for.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say about how the Jets can move the ball, the Bills are always kind of stingy, but they also are kind of bend don't breaky. You know what I mean? Like they play some zone. They'll give up a little thing. So I think that Aaron Rodgers, I think he could, if he can lock in on one of these underneath guys, you might get like a bunch of receptions, like short ones, from either who would be either Lazard or Hardman or whoever it would be that would be taking those. That could be an interesting way to play. But I don't think that that the Bills are going to be giving up like 350 yards to Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? I don't think the Bills are going to be giving up 4 touchdown passes to Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think they're going to be giving up 4 touchdown passes to anybody. And I'm not really convinced, like you said, that Aaron Rodgers on a new team in the rain is going to be just like showing out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Listen, the Jets, even though they needed the quarterback, whatever, the Jets are primarily a defensive team. They have a really good defense, and that's what they're going to rely on to keep them in games.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Which reminds me,
that's another reason to not like Diggs as much, by the way, too. You have maybe the best cornerback in football.
Yeah, which reminds me that the Jets' defense is very playable.
Yeah, I think both defenses are really interesting. And for what it's worth, I'm actually lower on both of these teams than probably most people are. I don't think the Bills, and I've said it every year, I think the Bills have been the most overrated team over the past few years. I know they almost got to the 1 Super Bowl, but there's been this attitude as if they've somehow just miraculously gotten unlucky and you couldn't say anything bad about the Bills. No, they've lost a lot of games they shouldn't have lost. They've beaten up on bad teams. And I just don't know where I stand with the Jets yet as with Rodgers at quarterback. I love the position players and I love the defense. But I don't know where I stand with Rodgers at the moment. So I'm going to be playing that take, whether it works or not, we'll see. It remains to be seen. But if you can, you have great corners covering Wilson and Diggs. So if you can be at least below the field, if not excluding those guys, I think that's a good way to start, along with Rodgers as well, because you'll basically be eliminating a huge portion of the ownership, especially if you're scripting, if you went way underneath of those guys.
Yep.
Anyway. And then if you do want to play those guys, you can hedge and play them all together with the cheap 200 Deontay Hardy or whatever,
Right.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be live at 7:15. I'll be live at 7:15. I look forward to seeing you guys there, and hopefully we can make some money, turn this, get this football season going in the right direction, have some baseball love tonight, and could be a fun week.
All right, dude. I will see you later on.
All right, good luck, everyone.